another event the next week after, you're freezing. You know, you almost can't judge where you are sometimes. This is a new space we're going to be trying and testing out to see how our turnout's going to be. I want to know from you guys, how hard was it to find the space? Honestly, I mean, be truthful. Was it hard?
Like 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? Yeah, okay, that's not too bad. I thought it was going to be like 2 out of 10.
I had way worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I was fearful when I saw it. So, what do you think?
It was a bit far, I would say.
Okay.
It was a bit far, but it wasn't hard to find.
Okay. Anyone else?
I agree, far, but not.
Okay. And you guys are all driving, correct? No? You bus? How's the bus?
Generally, or just this?
Just in general, get here.
Well, I've accepted that there are a lot of issues with buses.
Okay.
I bring a book.
Ah, okay, but the walk from the bus stop to here,
Not too bad.
not too bad? Okay, because that was one of the fears that I had originally when we first started thinking about space. We know the guys that run the place, and really our ideologies and how we want to grow our businesses together are basically the same, and that's another reason why there's another event happening here on November 3rd, which is going to be the Waterloo, I think it's called the Tech Startup Showcase. So definitely, if you guys want to, definitely come out to that as well. It is a free event. We're expecting about 100, 200 people, 15 vendors. There's going to be a food truck. I think there's going to be, you know, beer. If you guys want beer, we're going to have that as well. So we're trying to do a few little things. And we're looking to start doing our roadshow starting up early next year as well. So we definitely want to sit down with any startups that want to talk about, you know, getting themselves a little extra exposure and stuff as well.
What's the beer's name?
I have no idea right now. We're tossing around some ideas. It's like the Waterloo Brew Factory or Brew Company, or there's just too many. You know, we're trying to figure out who's going to be the main sponsors. So with that being said, we just want to thank you so much for being here. We do want to promote as many startups as we can within our tech ecosystem and within our membership, within our group. We're very hands-on in the sense that this is not just typically an event where you just come in and see a bunch of people and then go home. We try to make it a little bit more personal, where we actually come on a one-on-one. We'll meet with coffee. We'll sit down and have coffee with you. We try to go over, you know, what your business wishes and wants and desires are, and try to really help you out a little bit, and try to make a connection with some of the members that we have in our group. We've been lucky enough within the past year. Our total membership base in Toronto and Kitchener right now is just a little over 2,000 members, and we've been doing that in less than 9 months, and we're going about 100 some odd members a month. So for us, that's been really, really good. We have a really positive vibe from our members. And then at the end of the event, please fill out one of the surveys. We really want to know the truth. How can we improve? What do we need to do to make things a little bit better, to give you really what you need to succeed and make the connections that we can? With that being said, Anis, is there anything that you want to say to the group or anything specific?
Yeah, I think you got everything covered. Like, I just want to include the feedback, but yeah, we're good.
Sarah, is there something that you want to say directly to the group as well, or any announcements? No?
Not anything else.
Well, thank you. So with that being said, we'll bring in our first couple speakers. So I'll bring you. Come on down, tell us who you are, tell us about your company, because I'll be all wrong with the company name and logo or what you're about now, so tell us a little bit more about you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Anastasia. I'm here from Actively, our club Actively, and we are a company that organizes awesome social events in the city. So I don't know if you guys know a lot of fun stuff to do besides just going to the bar. We know a lot of fun stuff. So we have this awesome event coming up in November, on November 20th. It's called Entrepreneurs Paint the Night. And we're going to go to Games on Tap and have some craft beer and learn how to paint a beautiful masterpiece. And yeah, I invite you all to join us. So you can go on clubactively.com to find out more about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your company and what you're really doing? You mentioned a little bit of a rebrand from what you were doing before?
Yes. So we started out doing registrations and payments for sports organizations. So we're working with the government and Badminton Ontario. And mentioned to some of you, it's an awful, awful group to work with. So we pivoted away from that, and we had all these businesses that offered all of these cool activities. And you know, we have like archery tag and escape rooms and stuff. They're like, yeah, like how do I get the word out about my super cool activity? And we saw this opportunity to maybe have this activity discovery platform. And so we have this platform, and people go on our site and they're like, oh, like I see all these cool activities, now what? Like, you know, I just graduated, all my friends left the city, like I don't have a group of 15 people to go to this with me, or you know, whatever, right? So we said, why don't we help coordinate some of these groups, and why don't we facilitate some of these events? And and why don't we help other groups who do have like 15 people, like a corporate team or something, you know, organize something fun like that for their people. So now we've kind of officially launched Club Actively in September. We've had 180 something people do activities since then. We have 3 activities coming up in November in KW and 4 in Toronto. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. And yeah, it's definitely been kind of a roller coaster from Badminton, Ontario to where we are today.
That's the interesting thing you hear and how companies are actually have changed. You hear a lot of companies early stage that do pivot. You know, we've seen them again. You came in just I think 6 months ago when we first started, and you did your presentation. You had the same thing in Toronto, where the company first started off when we first had them, and then 6 months down the road they just went completely in a little bit different. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now you know what your pains are, and you're proactively going for it. So that's really interesting. So let us know if there any way we can promote your events.
Yes.
Let us know.
We will do.
Okay.
Hope
With
to
that,
see you guys.
fantastic. We'll bring Tim. Come on down. Tell us a little bit more who you are, what you're about.
Thanks, Ryan.
At timsecurityguru.com.
Yeah. So my name is Tim, as Ryan said. I'm an independent consultant, and I help companies build and design secure software. So I specialize in cryptography, which is the math behind encryption and digital signatures and techniques related to that. So first of all, I want to be clear. This is a startup technology group, right? And honestly, most startups, especially in an early stage, should not hire someone like me. So I need to be clear about that, because early on, you honestly don't have a lot to protect, and you have bigger problems. You have 10 users or whatever, you don't have a lot of serious data. Now, there are some exceptions to this. I've worked with healthcare technology companies, and I've worked with companies where doctors are inputting patient data into this platform. In that case, whether you have 10 patients on that or 100 or 100,000, you really should probably be thinking about security from the beginning. So anyway, that said, as a company matures, you start to get more important data being stored in your systems. You start to care about, is your brand that you put all this effort into and this reputation you built up, is it actually going to go away if someone hacks into your systems, right? What's the risk here? So that's when security starts getting more important. So anyway, if you're at that point with your company or you'd like some help with that, I'd be happy to help out and talk to you. Thank
Fantastic. So you definitely are one of the guys that can actually help prevent any of the breaches that just happened last week, and all the big issues that we've been hearing about in the news. You can go in and say, okay, this is how we can protect it.
That one's a big challenge. That one's some fundamental design issues with how the engine is structured, but that'll be interesting to see how they resolve that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'll be bringing on the next person. Actually, you tell us about your company. You had a really cool product, and I want to give you the opportunity as well. And same thing as the gentleman all the way in the back. You want to tell us a little bit more about you as well, so you can come up and talk about it?
Me first?
Yeah. Just eat first. And then a little bit later on. Do you want to, or after the event?
Maybe I'll discuss with people after the event.
Because I think you have a really cool thing, and I want to make sure people know about it.
For sure.
All right. So come on board.
Cool. So, good evening. Sorry, a little impromptu. My name's Steve. I'm with a company based out of Woodbridge called Obero. So, first things first, I am the nasty sales guy with Obero, who covers the Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario area. But we're a software company, cloud software company. We specialize in helping mainly software companies. That's like our core market, the types of companies that we'd like to go after, with handling a lot of their sales operations challenges. So as companies grow, they start to build up their sales teams. They start to develop, sales and revenue plans, quota plans, territory plans, compensation. We help them to sort of unify all the data, because it tends to come from many different sources, and help them to automate a lot of those processes. So the core low-hanging fruit for a lot of our clients is commissions. They have a sales team of 10, 20, 30, up to hundreds and hundreds of salespeople who they have to run monthly commissions for every single month. Oftentimes it's very event-based, especially in software, as you guys will start to see as it progresses that far. Oftentimes they'll be selling, they're paying out based on 50% when you book a deal, 50% when you collect revenue on that deal. Maybe there's a services component to it as well. So we work with them to essentially bridge the gap between the various systems where they house all that data, run all the calculations for them, and then provide some real-time reporting capability to their actual sales team. So we allow their sales team to go in and say, okay, I'm this far towards my quota for the month to the quarter of the year. I need to do this to close that next deal. This is how much money I'm going to make based on doing that. So
Perfect.
The quick pitch.
That's exactly, I mean, you had a really cool product, which was actually a perfect segue to the next conversation that we're going to have with Marco, the fact that with all this beautiful data, you need to be able to have some kind of analytic to actually measure and create proper metrics. So with that being said, Marco's here. So tell us more about you and how did you get here? How did you get into this journey of creating a product? Tell us a little more about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Marco Savic, co-founder and CEO at Funnelcake. Core of our product, very similar to the pitch you just heard, but on the marketing side. We take all the data from your tools like Salesforce, Marketo, or HubSpot, pull it all together, and show your marketing team where you need to invest. Do you need to invest in more campaigns? If so, which ones?
Yeah.
Do you need to invest in hiring more salespeople? And if you need to do that, when do you have to make those decisions by to hit specific revenue targets? And that's something that I used to have to figure out very manually. So my career path is a little bit weird.
Absolutely. Tell us about your career path and how you got to this point.
Yeah, so I went to design school, then worked at a agency for 4 years, then at a B2B SaaS company in town, Big Blue Software. And I was there for 3 years doing marketing operations and demand generation. And one of the core challenges there is proving why marketing is doing what it's doing. And the challenge is that it's really hard to do that. If you're a B2B software company, you have a long sales cycle. It's going to take 6 months to 2 years to figure out the lead I got today when it became revenue. And what I had to do was log into our systems. We were using Eloqua for marketing automation, Salesforce, all of our different ad networks like Google AdWords, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, AdRoll, and just suck in all this data by hand, map it together in Excel, and it would take 2 weeks out of every quarter to figure out how to do it. And it was really useful data, informed a lot of the business decisions, but it was just painful. And so I went out looking to see, is there another solution for this? What do other marketers do? And found out that literally everybody does this work in Excel. And so I set out to build Funnelcake to start doing that, recruited my co-founder who I was working with at the time. And we set out in May of last year to start building Funnelcake.
And how did you come up with creating your original team? So you had the idea of, oh yeah, there's a pain in marketing that I can probably address. And then how did you get together with your founder? Was he someone that you worked with already? And then how did you build up that relationship saying, you know what, let's do this? What was that aha moment that gave you that idea?
Yeah, my co-founder, his name is Andrew. We worked together at Igloo. We were on kind of a R&D prototyping team at the time, so we had a good working relationship. He knew that I wanted to leave to start Funnelcake. And it took a little bit of recruiting work, probably about 3 months to actually convince him to take the leap and do a startup. And so we did have that foundational working relationship ahead of time. We worked together for 4 years before that.
Oh, fantastic. So you had that background.
Yeah.
And then how did you split up the roles with you being more, I think, the admin, and with him, what was his role then?
Yeah, his role is as our CTO. So when we started the company, it was just the two of us for probably the first 8-9 months. And Andrew really built out the whole product. So I was acting as the business side of the house, so sales, marketing, ideal customer profile, and product management. And then Andrew was building to those requirements, getting it out the door, figuring out what we need to actually build to the vision, and helping to break up those components.
So when the time you first thought about the idea, how long did it take you to come from conception directly to finally launching the product officially as a beta or officially into the market?
We took a slightly different path.
Okay.
We got customers on day 0.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started with a customer advisory board. We picked 8 companies that were all local, got them on board as pilots, and because we're a data integration player, we needed real data to work with to figure out how do we build what we want to build.
Okay.
And so we worked with companies like Vidyard, Auvik, Exonify, Myovision, got them connected, got them to kind of prove that there's value associated with our product, and got them to pay a little bit of money so that we could get their commitment.
Yeah, so you're sponsoring customers basically to get you started.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Now, through that whole process again of getting at least the customer feedback early on, how did that change your, I guess, your MVP when you first started, and then what was the next iteration after talking to the customers once it was out there? how did you change again to really, get to the next stage?
Yeah, I think at the beginning we made a lot of mistakes in product management, product design, and trying to figure out what is the problem that I had that I was solving versus what can we build quickly to see traction, to raise money, to build a team. And so I kind of chased this path of what's the next feature set we need to get a customer using this to get another contract, to get another set of adoption. And so we had this vision of where we wanted to go, and we kind of started building this other path because we had some customers who weren't a fit, but we wanted to make it work. And
you need the revenue, you want it to go, and then
and so that put us down this weird path where we ended up building kind of like a Franken product that was really like 5 products, and we only really got out of that maybe 3 months ago.
Oh wow. So really fresh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and since doing that change, we've seen a huge uptick in sales and clarity of messaging, in understanding who we're targeting. But it was kind of like well-intentioned because we wanted to be a customer-focused company, but bad because we ended up creating a very distracted product.
Okay. So you had a vision, you know your original path, you needed the customers early on based as your, to give you early revenue. They basically dictated a little bit, so that's what led you off the path a little bit?
Yeah, I think it was like trying to make the most of what we had at the time rather than saying this is the vision for the future and building to that.
Okay, that's been really hard to build out. And a lot of conversations where, okay, this is my core structure, I'm trying to build out in one specific way, and then you talk to your buddy going, no, we gotta change it this way, we gotta change it, pulling here, pulling and everything else going on.
It was challenging because you're trying to do right by the customer, and so Steve Jobs has a quote that if you ask people what they want, they're not going to tell you what they need. And that's kind of true of like what we learned with this process is we ask people what do you want based on what we put in front of you. It is like, well, if you change this one thing a little bit, maybe it's going to do it. But instead you have to gather the requirements of like, what is their pain, what is their day-to-day, what is a question they're trying to answer with your service, and then find a way to answer that. Rather than what we were doing was slowly pivoting the product over time.
Now, through this whole the journey you have right now, so it's you and your co-founder. When did you start bringing employees on board, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, we expanded the team quite significantly in January of this year. So we grew from 2 to 7 very quickly. So we raised a pre-seed round and built out our dev team. So we added 3 people on the dev side and hired a salesperson and marketer.
Okay, fantastic. And how was that journey, just the fact that you're actually your first hire? Because I know I talked to a lot of founders, including ourselves, when we first started. It's nerve-wracking. You have this list of what you need and what you want, and then you get your first person, and then you try to make sure that they understand, you're conveying that message. So as you're building it up slow, bit by bit, you're up to 8 people. How do you maintain your actual vision and make sure everyone's on board with your main vision as you start growing?
I think that's one of the hardest things because you have to articulate to all your new employees who don't have your background or your history, everything about your market. All the nuances, particularly for us, like what are the tools, where does the data come from, how do people use it, what are the expectations, what have we learned, what would we change, and kind of getting them that foundational knowledge of like the tech part of what you're doing combined with the customer needs so that they can come up with new ideas that will help solve the customer problems on their own. One of the challenges we ran into with that is we brought on a lot of staff all at once. So it was good because we had our customers come in and do guest lectures, which was really helpful. But it was bad in a way because we didn't have anyone but me and Andrew to help share any institutional knowledge.
Okay. And the same part when bringing that many people on that fast, it's understanding. I mean, if you're doing the front of the house stuff, as you're, you have your CTOs working on the back end, then you're juggling. You have the payroll, and you're making sure that you have enough revenues coming in, depending on how that works out. So that's another whole set of challenges that you're throwing at you.
Yeah, that's a whole new set of business skills to learn. Yeah, that's one of the things in the founder seat is there's a new set of things to learn every single week.
Wow. So you mentioned before with the founding, so originally when you first started, it was self-funded directly by you and your partner?
So we actually raised a little bit from friends and family at the beginning. just to get off the ground,
Okay.
like our full-time jobs.
Okay, and then after that, that's when you got your first seed round.
Yeah, so we raised some pre-seed capital from angel investors, and we actually just raised a little bit more right now,
Oh, fantastic.
and working to get to Series A for sometime next year.
Oh, fantastic. So can you tell us a little more about the journey of going, okay, now you built your product, now it's one thing to sell your product directly to a customer, but now how do you sell your business directly to an investor?
Yeah, in raising money is really, really challenging, especially at the early stage, especially where you have to be able to articulate your vision of the future combined with a business plan with no proof of anything. And you have to believe it and make them believe it on the other side. And part of it too is it's also a relationship game. So when you're first starting, you likely want to go raise money so you can build out your team. But an investor wants to get to know you. So part of it is your vision, your business plan, but part of it is you. And one of the biggest things that investors are looking for is, who are you as a person? What kind of character do you have? If you commit to something, are you going to deliver on it? If you don't know something, are you going to ask for help? If you make mistakes, are you going to tell me? It's the, are you the kind of person I want to go for a beer with test. And that's something that takes time to answer. So like, regardless of, like, you could have the most traction in the world, but what's going to get someone bought in is, do they get emotionally invested in you, followed by emotionally invested in the product category you're in, followed by your product and business model. Because everything is changeable except you.
Absolutely. So that was your journey early on and how you're trying to navigate it. So it's like dating. You're dating for investors.
It's definitely like dating, but it's kind of, when you first start, you go in imagining like you're going to go get married on your first date. Or like on a blind date. And it doesn't work that way. And so for me, it was a lot of learning of what is the story to tell, how do you put together. I think the story of fundraising is the story of understanding how to run a business, because it's, you have to learn how to write a business model, do a cash plan, a cash forecast, figure out who you're going to hire, what you need to hire those people, and all the decisions associated with that, plus your product strategy, the risks associated, everything with that. That was a huge set of learning of things I'd never done before. I think anyone who comes from a non-business background probably is going through that.
So you're talking about all this learning stuff now. We'll segue a little bit in the sense that, what are some of the biggest things that you've learned then through this whole journey? I mean, you started, this company was launched when?
May of last year.
Okay, so within this short period of time, what was some of the biggest things that you've learned early on from, from the hiring stage or the investing stage? What was the biggest things that you learned in your top 5?
Yeah, number one is people issues are the hardest issues. They're the ones that if you don't fix them, they will break your business, but to fix them, they're the hardest because there's a lot of emotion involved in them. There's a ton of different priorities going on between like what relationships, priorities for a career, what people want from their life, things like that. But fixing the people issues fixes everything else. So I think like that was one of the hardest truths to learn, just how much time and emotional energy goes into there. The other one is learning the ugly truths about yourself. Especially when you're the CEO, you have to confront every single day all the things you're bad at and all the things that are part of your approach or your style or how you communicate that makes it hard for other people to do their job and has a lot of unintended consequences. And you have to be honest with yourself about what those terrible things are so you can go to fix them. Because if you don't fix them, your employees will leave or your company will die. And so that's a really challenging thing to learn. The rest I would just say is really understanding the incentives of venture capitalists if you want to take venture money, understanding how you fit in their model, and then figuring out how to build to your vision. If you have a vision for what the future should be and you know what that market is, figure out what you need to build that and then get all of those things and don't kind of meander on the way there.
Okay. So from what I understand, I mean, one of the big things is know your weaknesses. Don't be afraid. Approach them. I mean, go for them full force. You understand what your pains are or you're not strong at? find someone that's really good at it.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's where you balance it off with your partner in the sense that you understand the business, the front end model, the business model. Your other partner understands the back end, and that's where you guys really join up really, really good together.
Yeah, but I think it's beyond that too. You need people. So one of the biggest things I found in this is the support of community, and not just within Waterloo, but also you build a community around your company with your customers, your advisors, your board members. I find a lot of early stage companies are really hesitant about having a board. I love having a board because these are people who you can call and ask for help. So you mentioned filling in for weaknesses. Andrew covers it on the tech side, but I don't have an accounting or finance or business background, so I rely on my board and advisors to help with that. I've never been an executive before, so I have an advisor who helps with that. So it's look beyond just like the core of what's in your company for how to round out your skill set, because you're not going to be able to hire at this stage all the people that you need with the skill sets that you need right now. So can you fill that in with advisors or board members, and always look at those as how can they help the company get to its next stage.
Okay. Now with the early stage and say really early stage companies, how is the benefit of being in a community tech or this incubator space where you actually, I mean, I think back years ago, and this is a conversation we had with one of those you guys, saying years ago, 10, 20 years ago, you had to basically hire a gray-haired guy in the sense that they had the connections, everything else. That was the old school, you paid a fortune for it, as opposed now where you have the community techs, you have all these incubators and accelerators giving you information. Now, how important was that in your work?
There's a benefit to visibility being in the incubators. We were able to get some additional access to funding based off being inside of Communitech. But I think the biggest benefit is being with your peers. If you have a chance to work inside of an incubator, look at the other companies who are in the cohort ahead of you, because they are who you want to be when you finish. And they're the people who you can go to and say, I have this problem, how did you get past this problem? Like for me, we went through Communitech Rev, Bridget went through Communitech Rev the cohort before us. So when I have a funding challenge, I can call Mallory and say, hey, how did you get past this, can you help? And because they're a stage or two ahead of us, they have that experience, but it's still fresh. So it's a lot more relevant than getting just an advisor involved. And then having the people who are going through it with you at the same time, who are the same stage, it helps make the job less lonely, but you also help figure out what you're doing. So
you have the camaraderie, you have that, everyone's basically feeling some kind of the same pains. So
yeah.
you can actually talk about it.
It's kind of like going through med school. Like you become really good friends with people who you're doing this with.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, and I think that's a much bigger benefit than the mentors. And I think the community surrounding that here is really great.
Okay. Now, with your company growth and everything else like that, what do you see, you know, I know they say Toronto's really good in fintech, you know, Waterloo's really good in some of the robotics coming up or early technologies. How do you find the marketing for your product? How do you find that within the Canadian marketplace or within Ontario and how it's growing? How do you see that market space right now for yourself?
So we're ignoring the Canadian market right now. We're selling only to the US right now. So in selling to marketers in Canada, they're cheap, they're risk averse, and they don't have as much budget. It's also challenging when we go to raise money to say, hey, our customers are Zanify and Vidcare. They're like, oh, so your friends bought from you. And we didn't have relationships with any of those people before we sold to them, but that doesn't matter. So you have to understand, if you're trying to build a venture-backed business, what are the optics of the customers you have? If you want to show you have a repeatable, scalable sales process, you don't do that by selling in your backyard. You do that by selling in a different market that you don't know. And so we've been focused on New York, Boston, and San Francisco as our core areas. We've brought on 4 customers out of the US in the past month. So it's working, and it helps tell a much better story from a fundraising point of view. If you're not trying to go raise huge amounts of capital, focus in your backyard because it's way, way easier. So it really depends on what type of company you're trying to build. Do you want to bootstrap to scale, or do you want to raise a lot of venture, hire really quickly, and grow really quickly?
Now, you mentioned before some of the good things that you've learned, some of your top things. Now, what are some of the biggest pains that you've had, like, through your growing pains, that you've figured, oh my God, this is insurmountable, I'm dead, this is going to kill us, but then you found a way to still solve it. What was that, some of the big things that you got yourself out of? You can share. You're allowed to share.
No, I'm comfortable sharing.
Okay.
The scariest ones are always when you think you're going to run out of money. You're always running out of money unless you're cash flow positive.
Yeah.
So it's changing your mindset from scarcity of this is the day that the bank account runs dry to if I invest in these things, this is how we get more money sooner.
Okay.
And it's a weird mindset shift because you have to go from like a scarcity mentality to a surplus mentality, even though you feel like you have no resources. But when you flip that, you open the door to all sorts of different possibilities. You can say, okay, if I hire the salesperson, I shrink my runway by 4 months. But if I hire the salesperson and they work, I increase my runway by 10 months.
Yeah.
And it also gives me the opportunity to hire another salesperson, which then gets me to where I need to be to raise my next set of funding. And you're taking a bet that that's going to work. But it's a different mindset. That one was really hard to learn.
Okay, so it's the mindset by itself, thinking that way.
Yeah, it's like you look at your cash forecast and you say, this is when we run out of money. And then you say, okay, I'm going to throw another person in here. I am now shrinking that.
Yeah.
The pressure is on, and if we screw it up, we're dead. And that's a really tough mindset.
That's that juggle.
Yeah, and so it's learning to accept that that's kind of your fate going forward, because while that's a problem today when we're small, that's also going to be a problem when we have 200 people on payroll and we're going to say we're going to try to double sales next year. Well, to do that, we have to double headcount.
Yeah.
So the problems kind of will be the same, just at a bigger scale in the future.
Now, with some of the problems that you basically overcome, what do you see as the biggest advantages, or where do you see yourself in the next few years as you guys are growing? I mean, you seem to have sales coming on, you're trying to bring on more people. Where do you see yourself in a couple of years?
Yeah, our goal is to build a really big, sustaining Canadian company. That's what we're in this for. That's the path we'd like to be on. So where I'd like to be in 3 to 5 years is that 50 to 100 million in revenue, large team, mostly based out of Waterloo or Toronto, and having a killer product that's changing the way our customers go to market.
Fantastic. Now, with that being said, what's the one piece of advice you'd have for an early stage startup, or someone who's just, they're hitting their head against the wall, they're really, really trying? What's that one piece of advice you'd be able to give?
If you are trying to do sales today, and sales is really, really, really hard, there's 3 reasons why it could be really hard. It's your people doing sales are wrong. If it's just you doing sales, that one's not really an option unless you can hire someone. Your process and messaging could be wrong. That's the easiest one to fix. So experiment with that one as much as you can. But the third one is your product could be wrong. And it's not necessarily that your market is wrong or your whole concept is wrong. It's that there's a slight pivot you need to do to reach that velocity and acceleration. So if everyone is saying, this is neat, it's interesting, how do people get value out of this? Those are leading questions that are saying your product is wrong. Whereas if people are saying things like, who else is using this? How are you funded? What does implementation look like? What's on your roadmap? Those are getting into more buying questions for early stage.
Yeah.
And so those are going to help guide where things are. So if you're getting people closer to your bottom of funnel, it's a closer indication of product market fit.
Okay. Talking a little bit about sales, so I guess in a 1-minute thing, what would be your sales pitch for your company? So that we can all understand really who you are as a company, besides just saying, oh, I know this analytics, but let's know more about you guys.
Yeah.
So how can we help you?
So every company that you know is trying to grow their revenue. You look at, we sell to mid-market B2B companies like Exonify or Vidyard. So you look at them, they're trying to accelerate their revenue path as fast as they can. in the marketing side, there's a few ways that they can do that. It's invest in their demand generation campaigns, like their advertising. It's invest in more people, like people to cold call and list build all day. Or it's invest in their process. So what are our handoffs between sales and marketing? How do we make that seamless? For people to answer those questions today is incredibly complicated and manual. So if you get funnel cake put in place for them, we can help answer all of those questions. We can show them exactly where they need to grow, how many leads they need, by when to hit a specific revenue target. And it's going to keep their teams focused and accountable.
So with the product that you have right now, when it comes down to pricing and the pricing models, is it all custom? Is it based on a freemium model that then you then scale up? How's the pricing and how do you get involved?
Yeah, pricing was the learning experience for us. We originally were going to do a per seat license tied to Salesforce. What we learned from our competitors is that marketers don't like that because it scales faster than the marketing team does. So you look at a mid-market company, you might be 10 salespeople this year, you might be 200 next year. And so your license fees are going to grow faster than you're comfortable with. Then we tried doing a flat rate. We learned for us there's like a cap in the marketer's mind. They won't pay more than what they're paying for marketing automation. And so now we actually snap to that as our model. So we range in price from $12.50 a month to $4,500 a month, depending on the tools they're using and the number of contacts they have.
So, and price points or metric points or whatever?
Sorry?
Is it also based on the amount of touch points or metric points or connections?
Based on the number of contacts they have in their database.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I got all my questions answered. Sorry about that. Now, it's up to you guys. What do you guys have to say? Do you guys have any questions directly for him? Talk about the business model, talk about his experiences, talk about what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm curious how you built out your board of advisors and how did you do that?
Asking for a lot of connections. So I really lucked out. I knew one of the board members at Igloo. So I asked him for advice when I was starting the company. He connected me with a bunch of other people. One of those people is a CMO based in San Francisco. She's become my best advisor. We talk every Sunday for 2 hours about the business. We've done that for almost 2 years. And having that has been amazing. And then in the region, it's been getting those other connections made. So the same investor introduced me to Mars IAF, who connected me with a whole bunch of people. Some of my friends connected me with a couple of the CMOs in town, who then connected me with others. So Jackie Murphy, the VP Marketing at Avic, connected me with Carol Lehman, the CEO at Zonify, who's now on our board. And so it's build relationships with all these people, but then ask them who else they know who you should talk to, and bring up your specific challenges that you have, even if they're maybe not related to the person you're speaking with.
Okay. So just as an idea that right now, so you started off with your sponsoring customers, how easy it is or how advisable it is for an early stage company to actually, if you have your sponsoring customers, to actually get them to sit on your board or be your sounding board, since you're basically using them as a test model anyways.
Yeah, so there's kind of two things in there that we did. One is we built a customer advisory board. We did a simple memorandum of understanding. It's a one-page contract that says, by you participating in this, you're getting preferred pricing, and we expect to be able to meet with you for every other week for 1 hour to get your feedback on the product. So that's one way in terms of like a product committee. The other route is getting them to be involved in more of an advisor capacity to the company or board member capacity. There you want to be much more particular about who you get involved and spend some more time making sure that they have the right reputation in the community, because you're going to rely on a lot of their social capital.
Now, how humbling is it when you first hear you build up this platform, you're trying to get everything out, you're getting your sponsoring customers in, and then they're giving you the true feedback? How humbling is that part?
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. Because you want your product to provide value to people. But it's that same time being honest with yourself, understanding that if people aren't using something, why aren't they using it? How do you change it? It's not how do I growth hack my way out of this? It's what do I have to change in my process to create a new habit for this user.
Okay. And what was the process of actually you being more on the front end, then trying to express those same concerns or questions your customers are having directly with your developers or your CTO? Because sometimes that is sometimes a little bit of a conflict.
Yeah, we bring our developers to our customer meetings.
Okay.
So we actually have a Slack channel that syncs to our Google Calendar for sales, marketing, and customer success, where all of our demos post an alert 15 minutes before they happen. They're all virtual, so anyone on our team can attend them. So if you have a developer who's working on a particular project with a customer, they can tune in and listen to that from their desk. If they want to learn how we're selling and the feedback we're getting, they can sit in on those calls. We require that they do it for 4 hours a month.
Okay. So it's not just, this is a surprise saying, well, this is what customers are saying, and they're like, no, that's not true. This is, we have the best product. And
you need that buy-in because you need people to have empathy for the customer. They need to understand, like, if this part of the UI is confusing or this part of the data is wrong, you can't just ask the customer to change. If it's repeatable across every single customer, that's something we have to change.
Okay. Fantastic.
I have another question. So I know you said that one of the challenges you had was like managing people, right? So in our company, one thing we had to manage was expectations and like how much time do we want to, you know, and how is our lifestyle going to change if we're spending like 18 hours a day or whatever working at a startup. How did you manage that and like what insights do you have on that?
We've tried to keep the team to normal working hours as much as we can.
Like 9 to 5?
Like 8 to 6.
Yeah, he did normal.
We've tried to be really diligent about that with the team. It doesn't always happen. But when you set the expectation of these are the goals we need to meet, these are the timelines we need to meet them in, we don't want you to have to work late and you meet them within this, you lose a lot of the social life at work. You lose like coffee breaks, long lunch breaks, people chatting about their weekend. But people are very heads down focused. You cut out a lot of the like bullshit meetings and everyone just gets down to work and delivering. To make up for that, we do team building once a month where everyone gets together. We go to like the adventure room or something like that. And we actually rotate who plans that.
Okay.
But we try to keep a distinct line between work and life.
So basically trying to maintain your culture and develop a culture directly with the company being so young and trying to make sure you all are on the same page and have that energy and want to do it.
Yeah, like one of the reasons for that, my head of sales and success, she has 2 young kids, they're 3 and 5. When she came on board, she was like, I want to do this, but I have kids, I have a family, I have to be there for them, and there are times when I'm just not going to be in the office, and so I committed to that up front, and I'm trying to keep that commitment as best as I can.
Okay. Anyone else have? Yep.
What's the story behind your company name and logo?
The joke behind the name is that marketing is a hot mess, and that your funnel doesn't look like a straight line anymore. It's kind of like the zigzag path where people come in wherever they want.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's fun.
Anyone else have any questions? Or, yep, there we go.
So you talked about your customers driving you from your path of vision to something that you realize that you didn't set out to build. My question is, you got some investors on board. So did you feel that sometimes investors also kind of do that? And if you felt that, how did you deal with it? Because it's a slightly different relationship with investors.
Yeah, I think our investors have been extraordinarily patient. So they've been very out of the weeds in terms of like what the product is, what that vision is. I think how it gets manipulated is the reason we kind of went on that weird path is because we were trying to get the metrics we thought investors wanted. They're like, get another contract, get this usage metric up, rather than us saying, this is the market we're in, this is the product we're in, and we want to validate between these two. We were instead saying, hey, can we get another contract? Can we get another deal? Can we increase this? And that's not the way to build a business, that's the way to build metrics. And that was my mistake, and I should have corrected on that sooner.
So so it was mentioned that, investor meetings, meeting with investors initially is sort of like dating, right? But usually when we focus on that, we kind of think about rejection from that side. But what are some good reasons to not take money from somebody, right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We had an angel investor who was going to lead a seed round for us, and I just kept getting a weird vibe from him. He was a little bit late on commitments. He didn't treat my co-founder with a great amount of respect. He more or less addressed the business as if it was mine and not a joint effort. And we didn't have a strong connection. And so I didn't want to pursue that. I broke up with this angel investor after we committed that he was going to lead our round with a bunch of other investors, and that probably sent my round back by 4 months. And I don't regret that one bit, but that was a really hard thing to do. That's something I would suggest, like, if you're gonna take money from anyone in a venture capacity and you expect your company to succeed, you're going to be working with them for the next 10 years. If they're frustrating to work with, if they're going to backseat manage you and you don't want that, if they disrespect your team, if they have a different cultural value or vision, if their communication style just doesn't work with you and you can't resolve it, you probably shouldn't take that person's money even if you really need it. That's a hard thing to say no to, but you end up better for it. It makes it, you want to focus all of your discussions about the business on the problems of the business and not the people problems of the relationships with your investors.
From my understanding, you have enough issues in your business already. You don't need extra things compounded on top of it or extra pressures.
Yes.
I remember I was listening to a conference just a few months ago, and there was a guy from Owners saying the exact same thing. You're almost at a point where you're dating investors. You're trying to find the right one within the same company that you're going to mesh with really, really well, because it is a 10 or 15-year relationship where it's going to be, you're talking, you're going to have to be comfortable and be able to open up. Like you said, have a drink with them, sit down and be comfortable versus always be on an edge.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too. Like, have conversations with investors. Don't go and, some of them like their 10-minute pitch where you go and you stand up in front of the room. Real serious investors who want to invest in you will have a conversation with you. A pitch might be the way in the door, but at the end of the day, it's a conversation, it's a relationship you're trying to build at. Investors have a pipeline. They're going to do 4 deals in a year. To do 4 deals, they're going to meet with 400 companies, maybe 1,000 companies. That's 3 a day. So they're seeing 3 companies a day to make 4 deals. And you have to stand out in that conversation, and you have to stand out over that timeline. You have to understand the feedback that you're getting back from those investors. If they're saying things like they want more traction metrics, that's probably a cop-out. If they're asking you really hard, annoying questions, you're probably like, oh my god, this is going terribly. That actually means it's going really well, because they're trying to pick holes in your business, and they're interested, and they're trying to say, what is the gap here, and how can I tell a story around that gap to the people I'm accountable to if I decide to go down this path? And so find the people who are going to ask you really hard questions, but also find the people who invest in your space. We're in MarTech. It's an incredibly crowded space, and there's like 10 VCs who actually understand it. And so those are the ones that I'm targeting, and when I want to practice my pitch, I go to not those ones.
Okay. With that being said, does anyone else have any other questions or anything? Yep.
So you talked about sponsored customers, right? Is there any advice you want to give? How did you find those? Is there any specific thing which you did upfront which enabled you to generate that kind of revenue, which is really important for a company to start?
Yeah, we just went within our network, so I asked everybody that I knew, do you know someone who fits this profile? Can you introduce me to them? I then asked the people I was introduced to know another person like you, and then I asked those people. Always ask for someone else you can talk to, like whether you're talking to like a prospect, a stranger, a meetup like this,
Mhm.
try to find another connection, because while we might not be a fit for our businesses to work together, odds are I know somebody who is a fit for your business.
Absolutely. It's all relationships.
Yeah.
And so referrals, don't be afraid of the referrals. I think that's one thing that we try to do in our group as well, is we try to refer as many, because there's always connections. Like you mentioned just in your conversation, there's always going to be somebody like, oh yeah, that might be a fit, and if it's not them, it's somebody else that you might know that it might work.
Yeah, always ask. The worst someone's gonna say is, sorry, I don't know someone like that.
Yeah.
But like from our side, like especially with like the dating metaphor, you fear like someone's gonna say no and it's a rejection of your whole business, but it's really just, I don't know, that person.
Any other questions? I think you had a question before.
No, I
You raised
don't
your
have a
hand?
question.
You're good?
Yes.
Does anybody else have any other questions? And then if not, we're just gonna probably go into open networking. Like I said, feel free to ask any questions. You know what, one thing we're definitely gonna say is, especially with you guys as well, if you have a product that's launching, if you have anything that's new, that's about new and exciting about you guys or about your company, you want our members to know, let us know. We're more than happy to work as a resource. We may not be a PR agency, but you know what, we're gonna try to do anything we can to help promote who you are, what you're about. You have a product that's brand new, you just relaunched and rebranded as well, let us know. We can be used as beta testers. You know what, we're all in the tech field anyways, let us test your product. We're gonna give you honestly our honest opinion, what works, what doesn't work based on our own experiences. And I'd rather do it personally myself, around friends or people within a tight group, versus before going out directly to the general consumers. So if that could be a resource that we can do for you, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you any way we can. You know, I like to say it, but I want to be able to prove it directly. So our members are here to help. Let us help you. You know what? And if there's anything else that you guys have to or want to say, feel free.
Yeah, I would like to include on November 3rd, we have another event at the same venue, and it's going to be a massive event. It's free for everyone. And if you would like to have your product exhibited at that event, please do contact us and we'll put you in line.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And with that being said, we're just going to open it up to open networking and just go in. There's a big enough area over there. Start chit-chatting. Hopefully you can make some good connections, get your referrals, or referral to referral to referral. Hopefully you can get some business directly out of this. Please leave us your business cards as well. We're going to be doing a draw probably in the next few minutes for some Tim Horton cards. Nothing fantastic, but we got 2 cards that we want to give out, so we definitely need to get your business cards together. And anyone that gives us a business card will also get a discount at the next event that's going to be coming up here in November. But with that being said, thank you so much for coming out. Make some connections, chit-chat, and have fun. All right?
Thanks so much for your